Welcome in, boys and girls. It is time to talk NFL Week 13 opening lines here. My goodness, does time fly? The college football season, Kyle, regular season, yeah, that's done already. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And now we're going to be talking about it this week as some teams are going to be playing their final weeks, maybe heading into a college football playoff, maybe just heading into the bowl season and going to a bowl down in, I don't know, the Gasparilla Bowl or the Bad Boys Mowers Bowl, some interesting things like that. But we're here to talk NFL as well. Welcome into the show right here at Bookmakers Review at BMR Reviews here on Twitter. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Kyle Provides. And we are ready to talk some NFL football because Monday Night Football is here, Kyle.
I mean, Week 13, and you're right. I'll have my focus on the lasertag.com bowl. I can't wait for that one. 6 and 5. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know if that exists, but
should.
Crazy week of college football. Crazy day of NFL football, really. And then here we go tonight. Seahawks and the football team. I was telling you before the show, the first football game I ever watched as a little tyke on my grandma's satellite dish was the Washington. They were a different name then, and the Seahawks. So a little bit of a little soft spot for me here tonight, and should be a good game. Washington has something to play for. Seattle, their season's pretty much done, right?
Yeah. I mean, this, but basically, like we like to say, right? Basically. So we're going to get into that game, have some fun here. If you guys are watching here live on YouTube, I'm hanging out here in the chat box. Look at that, 2.59 subscribers in here, which is basically what, 2,500. It's so hard to understand.
2,590, I want to say. So
there you go. Yeah, like it's weird the way they put that in there. It's a lot easier when you're reading. It's like we had 30,000 subscribers, 40,000, which we will be there relatively quickly. But thank you guys for watching here. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell. And when myself and Kyle talk some NFL football, NCAA football, you can come in the chat box and say hello. Now, let's take a look at the game tonight. Seattle Seahawks, Washington football team. Line currently sits here at the FanDuel Sportsbook here, Kyle. +1 as a slight dog here for the Washington football team. +100 on the money line. Over under sits at 47.5. Tonight, could it be the night, Kyle, that the Washington football team have on one side Terry McLaurin, on the other side Curtis Samuel, at tight end Logan Thomas, Antonio Gibson in the backfield, and Taylor Heineke to go up against the Civ secondary for the Seahawks? And as I say, Civ secondary for the Seahawks, you know what else has a Civ secondary? Usually that Washington football team. But my question here, Kyle, is I'm going to ask you right off the top. Just doing a little bit of research on this game all week long, and I do like the Washington football team, and I'm going to tell you exactly why in a few moments. But I want to center this right now around the Seattle Seahawks tonight. And what is going on here, Kyle? 5-game snapshot for them. They scored 20 at Pittsburgh, L. 10 versus New Orleans, L. 31 against Jacksonville, which basically everybody's supposed to do. They didn't even score against Green Bay, and they put up 13 against Arizona. Each and every one of those performances anemic on the ground and in the air. So, Kyle, what changes tonight?
I mean, it's tough to say. It's cold weather in Washington. It's a good matchup. I mean, Russell Wilson, single-digit fantasy points 3 straight weeks. You're just not going to see that very often. They seem like they're stuck in the mud. And if you can't do it tonight with this matchup, Lockett and Metcalf have fantastic matchups tonight. We're talking William Jackson, who I was high on last year with the Bengals. Been terrible this year, giving up a half a fantasy point per route ran against. Kendall Fuller, who's supposed to be a good corner, giving up nearly 4/10. All 3 corners giving up a completion on 18% or more of their targeted defensive routes. The passing game should click tonight. Now, the key for Washington, we talk about the Seattle secondary is not great, but what's even worse is that front 7 for Seattle. They allow the second most fantasy points to opposing running backs. They can't stop the run at all. And they better get that fixed because we're going to talk about that soon. They got a matchup in Week 13 against the 49ers, and we know exactly what they're coming to do when you play them. So Seattle needs to get that run defense figured out. I get a little bit nervous about taking I'm looking at this Washington team total, 23.5 minus 125. Is it going to cause that? Are they going to be a little rusty adding these new components? Will Curtis Samuel throw them off a little bit? Will it be looking to him a little too much? Is there something different that's going to happen? Washington should absolutely be able to get to their team total, and so should Seattle for that matter. They're also at 23.5, so it's a pick 'em game. Both team totals pretty much the same. 125 for Washington, 120 for Seattle. There should be points in this game, but it's 37 degrees. Seattle's on the road. Some new components now being added in for Washington, so we'll have to see. This one's really, really tough for me. I do favor Washington here. I do think they're the better team right now. Something's going on psychologically with Seattle. And we'll have to see how this is the first time in a long time a Russell Wilson-led team and a Pete Carroll-led team have been out of it basically for playoff contention this early. We'll have to see what kind of motivation they have. I wonder about the mentality of that team coming into tonight's game.
I do worry about it as well, Kyle, because you hit the nail on the head. This isn't the Seahawks usually revving up for a playoff run with Russell Wilson and seeing if they can get home field advantage. That's not the case anymore. And I think there's a lot of Kansas City Chiefs-itis. And what I mean by that is it's the Seahawks. It's still Russ. They should be able to do whatever they want because they've done it for 10 straight years. They'd be able to do whatever they want. This isn't the same football team here. And also when you take a look at Washington, let's keep in mind also last year they won the division. They didn't have a great record. But the NFL doesn't care about that. They're going to say, hey, you're going to play a first-place schedule no matter what. If you look at their past, month and a half games here, Kyle, they played New Orleans and lost. That's back when New Orleans at least had the semblance of a good football team. Then they played Kansas City and lost. Then they played Green Bay and lost. Then they went to Denver and lost by a touchdown. Then they come back and beat Tampa Bay at home and busted up Carolina 27-21 last week. So this team has a propensity to say, hey, look, we've played a lot of good football teams. Did we fare all that well and take a lot of losses? Yes, we did. But I thought they played well against Tampa Bay, did what they had to do against Carolina, and now you're getting healthy again. We are going to see some inactive reports come out. Obviously, an 8:20 start time, so you'll see them around that 6:50 to 7 o'clock time range to come out. And if all those guys I mentioned are in, like Logan Thomas, who's activated today, so I'm going to assume that Logan Thomas will play, and also Curtis Samuel. You're looking at all those weapons finally there, and Kyle. And also, you're saying Russell Wilson should be able to return fire. Based on what? He was absolutely abhorrent against the Packers and terrible at home against Arizona. So we just sitting back saying I trust Russell Wilson because not only, Kyle, he's not throwing the football well, he looks slow as hell in the pocket.
Yeah, he really does. It doesn't look like the same guy. And that offensive line's not very good. I mean, let's just call it what it is. They've had a bad offensive line for years around him, and maybe that's starting to catch up to him where the physical toll of being hit so much and carrying this team so much on offense is finally starting to catch up to him. But I think I do have some Russell Wilsonitis because I'm nervous. I feel, and we sort of talked about it with the college slate this weekend. These weird things happen with Alabama, Auburn, and it shouldn't have happened. And then you see it happen. And by all accounts, Auburn really should have won that game. So it does make me nervous. I do lean Washington here. I do think they're the better team. It makes me nervous too. It's sort of like an NBA team. You start bringing all these stars back. How are they going to fit in? Is there going to be some miscommunication with the quarterback? Are the snap counts going to be the same? Are they going to be able to play as many plays as you want them to? You're going to have to rotate more guys in and out. How much synergy will the offense have? So that's the part that sort of gives me pause. I was sort of looking at some of these one-game parlays. I like this one that's 6-1. It's got Metcalf, Lockett, and McLaurin all getting 70 or more yards receiving. They all have terrific matchups. We know Terry McLaurin's going to be a target monster no matter who's in for Washington. They're going to look to Terry McLaurin. He's, for my money, when you rewatch all the games, covering a receiver one-on-one, outside of Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin can beat anybody in man coverage. So the Seahawks, you'll probably see them sit back in that two-deep shell, and that's what they do. And the problem with that is Gibson's going to run wild. I like a lot of the rushing props for Antonio Gibson. I believe it's at 65.5. I think he should easily get there. We talked about the Seahawks giving up the second most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So there is some value there. They have a one-game parlay. You can take Collins for Seattle over 60 yards, which isn't the greatest look, and Gibson over 80 at plus 8-1, plus 800. So that's maybe something you can look at as well. But I lean Washington, but I have this sick feeling if we start getting real low on Russell Wilson, and he's been hearing it all week long from every media outlet there is, a guy that good with those weapons on the outside against a defense that's been this putrid against the pass. There's certainly the window is open for him to have that breakout game, and it's certainly going to happen. Russell Wilson's not going to have these single-digit fantasy point, shutout outputs the rest of his career, we don't think. The breakout game is coming, you feel like, and it could be tonight, so I'm a little bit nervous, but right now I still lean Washington.
Yeah, it's a lean for Washington for me, certainly. And again, you're right. You see this 1 point line, and you're saying, hey, Seattle's eventually going to get it together. But get it together for what? They are not making the playoffs. The Seattle Seahawks are done. So I guess Russell Wilson, playing for pride is one thing. And quite frankly, if this season goes any more off the rails, Russ isn't going to be in Seattle, and Pete Carroll is going to get fired. So this is going to go off the rails quickly, and those rails could go off tonight if they lose to the Washington football team, because that would just, dig that grave already and say, hey, we're ready for the funeral. It's just only a matter of time now at this point. So I do like Washington. Looking at some prop bets for tonight. Anytime touchdown score at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Terry McLaurin sits at a plus 150. I think that is a decent price. And also a fun prop bet tonight, these are some of the favorites that don't really come up all that much, but it's 4 guys they give you to score 3 touchdowns combined or more. So essentially that means, like, if it's 4 guys, all 4 don't have to score 3 out of the 4. You just need 3 combined touchdowns. It's a plus 200 bet, and they're giving you 2 starting running backs: Collins for Seattle, Gibson for the Washington football team, and then at wide receiver they're giving you DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin. So 3 combined touchdowns tonight out of those 4 guys. That pays at a plus 2-to-1 price. So there's a lot of fun stuff. Also, if you take a look at the odds boost, which we go over, which odds boosts are much better during football season than they are during baseball season. Trust me. Tonight, there's 2 different ways you can go, Kyle, and this is just looking at FanDuel. If you like Seattle, they give you one here. Seattle to win and DK Metcalf anytime touchdown. That's plus 300. Like, this isn't a line where, like, hey, the Seahawks are really big underdogs. No, this is roughly a pick 'em here. So they're basically saying, if you think Seattle's going to win and DK Metcalf is going to score, case in point here, if Seattle wins, Kyle, has a good night offensively, there's a really good chance DK Metcalf is a part of that. That's a 3-to-1 price tag. Flip side here, if you say, hey, you know what, like myself, I like the Washington football team. Terry McLaurin over 65.5 yards and Taylor Heineke over 240.5 passing yards. That pays out at a plus 230. So this one's basically, hey, McLaurin, I don't care if you score, just get me 70 yards. And Taylor Heineke just had a decent night, and that would play at a plus 230. And you don't even need the Washington football team to win. Theoretically, Kyle, you could bet both of those and come out with 2 odds bets because you don't need the winner in the second one here.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking at someone like the McLaurin alternate numbers. Like, if you take Terry McLaurin to get 75 plus yards receiving, that's plus 110. You say, hey, Terry McLaurin's going to have a big game against Reed and Sidney Jones, who might be the worst outside corner you'll ever see. If he gets 125 plus yards, that's plus 525, nearly, a little over 5-to-1. I like some stuff like that. I'm going to be looking at the receiver props. For me, I'll be focusing on Gibson for Washington. That rush defense of Seattle's bad. Metcalf and Lockett are going to have great matchups. Now it's up to Russell Wilson, and if you want to trust him or not. And certainly based on the last 3 weeks, there's nothing to make you think that that's going to happen. But I'm telling you, the matchups there. And I mean, how many times do we see this in sports, right? We talk about buying low all the time. So I certainly think there's that path there. Antonio Gibson, 100 yards rushing. If he gets to 100 yards, plus 290, nearly a 3-to-1 price. I'd be looking at some of those if you're looking to have some fun. Not full units, of course, just little sprinkles in. But there is some value there, and there's some matchups that are advantageous for the props tonight.
No, I like it. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch because typically you look at this like, I don't know about it. But now that you're adding in more playmakers tonight, 2 defenses that are a little bit suspect, you might be able to make a couple dollars tonight on this game. But as I said, I do like the Washington football team. I'll be messing around with prop bets. And as always, follow Kyle on Twitter at DFS Bachelor. Follow me there at RightSideVP. If we have anything that we like to share that we think is important, trust me, we will put those plays out here. But that's the Monday Night Football game. Taking a look at that, Kyle, what do you say we dip into some Week 13 NFL lines? And we will start with Thursday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints. Big news on the horizon here. Why? Taysom Hill's going to start at quarterback. And let me preface this by saying anybody's better than Trevor Siemian. I think it was a little bit of a gift here, that -6 on Thanksgiving night, where it's like, who is actually going to play? But having said that, if you put Taysom Hill at quarterback, and you still don't have any wideouts, you still don't have a tight end or a running back, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Did you not see what took place between Tennessee and New England? If you take a quarterback's weapons away, the quarterback is going to stink in that football game. And, what else do you expect from the guy? So putting Taysom Hill in doesn't change it for me. Now, did Dallas look good, Kyle, on Thanksgiving? No, they didn't. But also, Dallas did not have 2 of their 3 wide receivers who are basically all pro caliber that looks like they are going to play. So I just keep this simple here. Now, COVID outbreak and, the joke around there, Mike McCarthy got COVID. Oh, God damn. Now you probably should take the Dallas Cowboys because he's not going to be on the sideline to interrupt and make dumb decisions. But just looking at this game here, do I like the Dallas Cowboys at -5.5? Not necessarily. But at the same time, I don't like the New Orleans Saints at all. So if I'm playing this game, it's going to be towards Dallas.
Yeah, and look, short travel for Dallas, right? Stay essentially on a parallel line right down there at the bottom. They get the full week. So this isn't being punished a short week. They played on Thanksgiving night. So it's a good situation for Dallas. They should get CeeDee Lamb back. He was really close to playing on Thanksgiving night. So I'll be really surprised if he doesn't make the starting gate. And really the problem here is the New Orleans Saints secondary is not very good. The Cowboys have already talked about we might shut down Zeke Elliott for a week or 2. Tony Pollard's more explosive anyways. And the key to beating the Saints, one of the premier run-stopping defenses in the league, but you know what they stink at is stopping the pass. Marshawn Lattimore is not the same shadow corner anymore. They're throwing PJ Williams and Paulson Adebo. These guys are giving up completions on 21, 22, and 19% of defensive targeted routes. For those of you wondering, what the hell does that mean? It means they're really, really bad. It's all in blue. It's all in green. It's a plus matchup across the board for this Cowboys receiving core. As we sit right now, so now you're taking Taysom Hill away from being probably your second or third, probably your second best receiving option outside of Alvin Kamara when he's healthy, right? I mean, do we love Marquez Callaway or Deontay Harris or Traquan Smith? Not so much. It's going to be Trevor Siemian won't be out there throwing blocks on 4th and 1 for Taysom Hill. So it's going to be tough for the Saints. I just don't like what they have on offense, and I don't like that secondary. Cowboys, if they focus on the passing game this week, no Mike McCarthy, the dumbest head coach in the history of the NFL, to mismanage the game, they might actually call timeouts when they're supposed to and challenge plays when they're supposed to. You're probably going to see a higher IQ Dallas Cowboys team. I know that's mean, and some people get upset about that, but that facts are facts. Go ask Aaron Rodgers. I'm looking at -4.5 at BetMGM. I like that number a little bit better. 5.5, 4.5. Doesn't seem like that much of a difference, but now with the advent of missed kicks and 2-point conversions and everything else, that extra point there, getting it under 5, sort of a key. 5 and 6 are now key numbers. I like the Cowboys right now, 4.5. Just not enough for the Saints for me to take them in any scenario right now against a good team.
Yeah, there's really not. And by the way, some updates here just coming out. Saints running back Alvin Kamara, who's missed the last 3 games with a knee injury, returned to practice today and was a limited participant. Taysom Hill, Mark Ingram practiced in full. So at least you're going to get an upgraded quarterback. Mark Ingram is a steady running back, but also I need Alvin Kamara full blast if I want to have any chance to win this game because, again, I just trust the Dallas offense more. And also keep in mind, you heard me, I don't know if you guys have followed me for years. This is always my pet peeve here. The Dallas Cowboys never have to go on the road on a Thursday night on a short week. So what does the NFL do for them? They always get the Thursday game at home on Thanksgiving. Major advantage. They lost. They seem to never take advantage of that. And then they give them the week break the following week and say, hey, we'll put them on a Thursday night, but at a full 7 days rest. So this is that massive scheduling advantage that Dallas has every single year, Kyle, and can never take advantage of it.
What about week 1, too? It's Thursday night, week 1, right? There's no short week for the Cowboys. Like, well, what are you talking about? They played 3 Thursday night games with nothing less than a week's rest. I mean, well, I guess the Thanksgiving Day game.
No, the home. Right? The key is the hardest game to play in football is when you play on Sunday, then have to travel to play on Thursday, and they don't ever do that. They've never done it.
Right. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's America's team. That's what they're going to do, and that's how they. But it is true. So they played on Thursday night. Now this will be their 3rd time. 1 time on a short week, and they got to be at home, and it's Thanksgiving Day week. A game they already know they're playing. Before you ever sign a contract with the Cowboys, one of the main things you say is, hey, I'm playing on national television on Thanksgiving Day. So, schedule makers will continue to be kind to Dallas, just like they're pretty kind to the Baltimore Ravens, too. Good Lord, can the Ravens get an easier schedule 2 years in a row? Drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. All right, let's keep on. Let's get to Sunday and get to some of the big games here that we can talk about here. Denver and Kansas City. Maybe didn't think it was going to be a big game, but Denver picks up a nice W over the Chargers over the weekend. Kansas City here lying in wait. That line is a 9.5-point favorite for the Kansas City Chiefs coming off a bye. If we take a look here, conditions 46, 45 degrees at kickoff, light wind, so you should get good scoring conditions here. Teddy Bridgewater did just enough, and the defense came to play here for Denver over the Chargers, but now they're going to go on the road, and Teddy Bridgewater's going to have to go toe-to-toe. You must score if you want to beat Kansas City. But how about this total that opened up, Kyle, at 50.5, now sits at a 47.5, and a total across the board, a number across the board that is as high as 10, but primarily 9.5s. Are we believing in Kansas City because, hey, did you see their last game? They're ready back to normal. I'm not so sure about that just yet, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to take Denver. It is a divisional game. Teddy Bridgewater bang. The best part about that game on Sunday, Kyle, did you watch it? Teddy Bridgewater, he couldn't walk. And dude, you better get your ass out there and play because we can't have Drew Lock in the game. That's crazy stuff to watch. But in this game, it's too many points for me early in the week, but it'll be a fun game to break down once we see what's what by the end of the week here.
Yeah, it's tough to take the Chiefs with this many points, and you're right. I sat there once I saw Bridgewater out and Drew Lock is in. I'm like, I'm just going to make sure that it's – because if it was going to continue being Drew Lock, I would have put so much money on the Chargers live. I could not wait to pounce on it. Luckily, I didn't. He came back in, and we talk about that with the Chargers, and we'll talk about them again. But if you can run the ball, you can beat them. They just can't stop the run, and it's hard to trust a team when they can't stop the run. Another team that struggles against the run, Kansas City. Are we taking them as double-digit favorites? Have we seen them cover a double-digit spread when they're favored by double digits in 2 years? We have not. So until I'm proven otherwise, until I see that defense actually play like a defense that deserves to be double-digit favorites. I can't back them early in the week. Sunday Night Football, we have a great Sunday night and Monday night, two really good games, especially in the AFC that's wide open. But right now I'd lean Denver. Just too many points for Kansas City.
Yeah, Sunday night action in Kansas City. We'll see what happens here. I know it's going to be a primetime game, so we loaded up on the prop bets as they move along. Back to the 1 o'clock slate here. And it is a Sunday night game. I'll just go in rotational order here. But 1 o'clock.
It threw me off, honestly. I was like, are they actually playing?
You know what's funny? Yeah, you just said that. I'm like, I wonder who the Sunday night game is. And I look and say, oh, yeah, this is actually the Sunday night game. So
it threw me
maybe
off
it was flexed in that position. But, yeah, the rotation is 457, 458. So we'll continue down 463, 464. The Chargers and the Cincinnati Bengals. Herbert is going to take on Joe Burrow. I don't know what more you can say about the Cincinnati Bengals. They said these Pittsburgh Steelers, like, yo, bro, you are old now. This team is old. We're the new team here, back to the Stone Ages. We'll see if Mike Tomlin can respond with no quarterback play. That team didn't even show up, and Joe Mixon looked like a reincarnation of like Barry Sanders / Jim Brown. He was sensational on Sunday, and they rolled. So I'm looking at this, Kyle, and I know where you're probably going to go with this. You see the lines opening up at a -1, quickly move to 3. Total goes from 48 to 50.5. And the reason being is, if you have these strategies, Kyle's like to say, is we don't really care about the run. What is Joe Mixon going to do on Sunday, Kyle?
He's going to absolutely kill him. And you know they don't want to. You know they want Joe Burrow throwing 50 times. Zach Taylor's proven that time and time again. But against this Chargers team, the strength of their defense is by far their secondary. They're the worst rush defense in the league, and it's putrid to watch. And again, I don't care what Chris Collinsworth or anyone else says. They're not doing it on purpose. They're just overmanned out. No team ever has walked in and said, hey, guys, here's our strategy. Don't give up a deep pass, but if they run it, give them 5 or 6 yards every time, because you don't win many games that way. Now, I will say this. I might be buying low on the Chargers. I'm still not right. The Bengals, I can't get the Bengals right. Okay, I can never get the Bengals right. And I don't think they're that good of a team, and I know that defense stinks. Looking at an early team total, 23.5 -130 for the Chargers. I might be buying low on the Chargers this week. I would still take the points with them, right? I do think they're the better team than the Bengals. I'm not sold on the Bengals. But right now, that team total for the Chargers is standing out like a sore thumb.
No, I like the Bengals. I mean, I like everything about them. Sometimes they'll disappoint, but when they're on it, like if you can have the basis, a good young quarterback in Joe Burrow, a dominant running back, and you can get games like, because even Jamar Chase was like a ball of fire in the first couple weeks of the season. He's cooled down, but now you finally see T. Higgins step up with a couple big plays. They have weapons across the board that if you shut one thing down, somebody else is going to be open. So the only way I'm looking at this game, I completely agree with that line move. I think the Chargers getting a little bit too much respect in this because it will be back-to-back games where they looked terrible against the Denver Broncos.
Yes,
now they're going to go home, regroup, and then go back on the road. And Cincinnati now is in a different mindset, Kyle. This is no longer a team that's like, hey, hopefully we win and do some things. You saw Joe Burrow in the post-game press conference, Kyle. They didn't see the big picture. Like, yo, we are right in it here in the clogged, AFC at 7-4. We can do some damage, win the division and get into the playoffs and see what we can do here. So good for the Bengals bouncing back. I do lean the Bengals early in the week. 4 o'clock here, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, -3.5 and 3s across the board. It looks so easy, doesn't it, Kyle? Like you see this and you say Baltimore is going to run roughshod. Forget about Baltimore's game last night. You just focus on Pittsburgh. Now, TJ Watson, COVID protocols. He's probably not going to play this weekend. That defense looks like it's a sieve. All intents and purposes look like they've given up. But at the same time, you can't just say, hey, Baltimore is going to roll them. Did you see Baltimore last night? I have no idea how Baltimore even won the game. Lamar Jackson was atrocious. And every once in a while, this is why, people that don't like Lamar Jackson can chime in. Because it's almost as if, Kyle, we know he's a good NFL player. He is a great quarterback at times. But aren't we always just waiting for that next start to be like, he can't pass. He has no idea what he's doing out here. And doesn't it seem like that always creeps up at the worst time? Like you're saying, okay, Lamar, lead this team. And this team right now, if the season ended today, Kyle, would be the #1 overall seed in the AFC with home field advantage in a place they barely lose in Baltimore. But yet I still look at this and go, I don't know if Lamar Jackson could beat a good football team.
Yeah, and I apologize that apparently Tom Cruise and Goose, they're just doing circles up here.
When is that movie coming out anyway?
I don't know, but it's funny. I found the number for the people who run that, and so every time this happens during the show, so as soon as the show is over, I will call that number and I'll start yelling at him again, and he'll be like, Kyle, quit doing this. And I'm going to say, every time you annoy me, I'm going to annoy you until it stops. That's the best I could do. Yeah, so Baltimore would be the worst 1 seed ever, right? I mean, outside of like the Steve Bono, remember the 95 Chiefs with Steve Bono at quarterback? No, not 95. was 96 or 7. It was right after Montana. They went 13-3.
Was it Bono, Gerbach, whoever the heck they had?
Yeah, it was Steve Bono, I want to say, and Gerbach was in Baltimore at that time. I think he had moved on to Baltimore. But no, first of all, I don't like the Ravens defense all that much. They're not a great defense. It's really an indictment on Baker Mayfield, what you saw last night. The defense is vulnerable in the secondary. Marlon Humphrey's not the same player. You can run the ball in this Baltimore team, and you're right. Lamar Jackson is not a great pocket passer, but he also doesn't have great weapons either. I mean, who's the best receiver? Who's the best receiving option Lamar Jackson has ever had as a quarterback? It's Mark Andrews, right? I mean, who'd be what? Is Mark Andrews making the Hall of Fame? No, of course not. Now, then you flip it over, and you watch Ben Roethlisberger throw the football yesterday, and I don't know how you're supposed to have any confidence there. It's Baltimore nothing for me right now, but this is a game I'm completely staying away from. I trust neither of these teams, and I don't think either one of them are as good as their record indicates.
No, and you take a look at it overall. Like I think I trust Baltimore now at this point because as bad as Baltimore played, Kyle, they still won the game. And I always like to say, like, Baltimore cares about the scoreboard more than any other team in football. And you say, well, that doesn't make sense. Everybody wants to win. You see that organization from day one from the preseason. If there's a scoreboard, these guys are going to compete whether they play well or not. And sometimes you're getting that view of the Steelers like, boy, when it goes bad, it goes real bad. Now you have all the flustering, the old school Steelers talking trash about the new Steelers. And Chase Claypool says, hey, Mike Tomlin, you've been in the league for 20 years, but can we just play music through practice and have fun? So the Steelers are quite a mess right now. It's something I don't want to buy low on and try to outsmart myself. But we'll see what happens on Sunday. 44 as a total in that one. Next game, we'll talk about San Francisco and Seattle. Obviously, Seattle plays tonight, but this is a big divisional matchup. The reason I wanted to bring this game up is because I like what San Francisco is doing. And Kyle nailed it right on the head. Team total there for the Vikings. And I said, hey, I really like the 49ers in this game. So it worked out extremely well for both of us there. But now I look at Deebo Samuel, who's such a key cog in that offense. He's got a groin injury, and you have to be so careful because without Deebo Samuel, this offense does not have that Swiss Army knife where I can run 6 carries for 66 yards as a wide receiver. I mean, the guy does everything. You want to beat a guy deep, he does it. You want to be intermediate route, he does it. You want to throw him a slip screen, he does it. You want to just hand him the football like a running back in the red zone to score a touchdown, he does that as well. So if he's out for any extended period of time, that is going to hurt. But watching the game Sunday, I still take this out, Kyle. And this is going to be really interesting because credit Kyle Shanahan. He realizes Jimmy Garoppolo is done. And you could say, hey, Donnie, I watch, the 49ers are winning games now. Garoppolo's the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Watch how they progress in this game. And case in point, now, it sort of covers up a few things. You remember in the Super Bowl, everybody's losing their mind with like a minute and a half to go. They had the ball relatively around like midfield, and Kyle Shanahan sat on like, hey, I don't want Jimmy to make a mistake here. Did you watch yesterday before the half, which he actually threw a touchdown pass? It was like 3rd and 7 or so at about, just in the field goal range. He came under center, and they ran about 25 seconds off the clock, and it was almost as if they were saying, I really don't think he can make throw a good touchdown pass here, but we just don't want the Vikings to get the ball back, and we'll settle for the field goal. And when you see Jimmy Garoppolo play, if he can make the short throws, they're an effective offense. But, Kyle, I'm at the point now where Jimmy can't throw them to victory, and if Deebo Samuel is out, I want to see what I get out of the Seahawks tonight before I make a decision next week, because I think San Francisco might be in a little bit of trouble if Russ comes back. But again, if Russell Wilson, what I think is going to happen tonight happens, I don't really care what happens next week. San Francisco with anybody's probably going to beat Seattle because their season is over.
Yeah, it's soul crushing almost that Deebo Samuel most likely won't play. It'll be shocking. It'll be dumb if they let him play. He's not playing this week. And he's so important to them because you're right. He might be the best running back in the NFC. I mean, this guy, he's phenomenal out of the backfield. He's phenomenal in the pass game. You're getting a team total at 23.5. You're getting a -2.5. It's a 49ers number. I mean, it's screaming 49ers at under a field goal, right? And we know what they like to do. Now, the one comforting thing, I still think as a side, the Niners are the pick here because the Seahawks just can't stop the run. They're much like the Chargers. Keep an eye on it tonight. Watch that defensive line tonight. See how they perform tonight. Then you're going to go on a shorter week against, we talk about the game plan that Kyle Shanahan comes up with for his running game. Obviously, a big loss losing Deebo Samuel. You'll probably see them slot Brandon Ayuk right into that. That's what he did much of the year last year as well. And I do want to say, remember that before the half, so they sit on the clock, and then they let him throw a deep ball to George Kittle right before the half.
It doesn't make sense.
It's just like, why are we doing this? What the hell is going
on?
I remember.
That night hurt.
Sometimes, it hurt me really, really bad. It was a painful evening for me. And it's just weird. So sometimes you're like, man, Kyle Shanahan's a genius, and you want him to be your coach every week. And then there's some of these things where you're like, what the hell is going on here? Do you believe in this guy or not? Are you gonna let it fly or not? You wait till the 10-second mark, then you tell him to throw it, 50 yards down the field. Makes absolutely no sense. Right now, though, you got to lean the 49ers. Let's see what we get out of Seattle tonight. But if that running game's humming, Eli Mitchell and Jeff Wilson are healthy, and they still have Ayuk and George Kittle, who they didn't use much yesterday, the 49ers still look like the more stable team right now, and certainly, especially up front at least, a better front seven. They should be able to compete with the running game. The Seahawks are going to have to – Russell's going to have to throw them to victory against that beat-up secondary. If you can't do that, if Russ looks dead tonight, then it's going to be a long week, and that could be the end right there, right? That could be where Pete Carroll finds his exit. If they lose tonight and then get beat by their division opponent and go to 3-9 or 4-8, could see the end of the Pete Carroll era right there.
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be his last year because, again, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But it's just I look at the 49ers, and I think Shanahan looks around the league like, man, can you imagine if I had Aaron Rodgers, or I know Matthew Stafford's struggling, but a pedigree quarterback where I can dial anything up and I know the right decision is going to be made, as opposed to, like, I don't know if I want my quarterback throwing this football. Like, how many times does Matt LaFleur of Green Bay send in a play and like, ooh, I don't know if I want Aaron throwing this football? It's like, no, I'm going to dial this up, and he's going to execute this thing, and we're going to dominate on offense. So
outside of the NFC Championship game, of course, where he just decides, no, we're not going to put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands, but that's another discussion.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's kick the field goal and try again, see if we get the ball back. I mean, anybody could have figured that play out, and it almost forced Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay and possibility where was Aaron Rodgers saying his first choice was going to be? You guessed it, San Francisco 49ers, if they could have worked it out. But it is what it is. You're going down the list. I did circle, Kyle, because we're going to get to college football in here a second. Some team totals early in the week that I think are going to be interesting here. And I can't fire on them yet because, as you see, after the Thanksgiving break, like, COVID is really going to come back strong. And for some apparent reason, it's going to affect everything again. And, nobody's going to end up really getting sick, but guys are going to miss games where you're firing away on a Monday and you might be down 3 or 4 players. Like, Jesus, I wish I would have waited. It's almost as if you're an under player, you have no problem firing early in the week because why? You're not anticipating anything good going to happen, and only bad can happen. Injuries and COVID. So what a year in the past 2 years, probably, if you're just an under better to say, hey, let me take a game on a Monday at the number I think is perfect, and hopefully somebody gets COVID at the end of the week. But I am looking towards the Bears this weekend at home against Arizona. And I told you for weeks, Kyle, anybody that would listen to me, if you put Andy Dalton in at quarterback, they had a decent offense. They played basically with nobody last week. If Allen Robinson returns to action and the Bears team total is a 17 like it is right now, Kyle, there's no reason to believe they can't get 17 points because, again, we talk about a running mate. Detroit wasn't a running mate on Thanksgiving. Detroit was, we're going to slow the game down and pray to God that the other team just has an inept day so we can win. Detroit's not going to win a football game this year, but Arizona might have DeAndre Hopkins back and also Kyler Murray. They're going to score. The Bears should be able to get some junk points in there. Also, the Indianapolis Colts, which we didn't talk about, tough loss again yesterday. It seems like they hang around and just can't beat some of these good teams in the NFL. They're going to play Houston. Carson Wentz, that offense should detonate that team. Their team total is around a 27.5. No reason to believe they won't be in the high 20s in that game. The Miami Dolphins going up against the Giants. And I said last week, remember, Kyle, at the 41.5, like, damn it, I'm not even getting these 2 wide receivers in, but I put the play out. I have to ride with it, and it ended up winning. Thank you to the Dolphins. No thanks to Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. But I think if they get one of those 2 of those guys back, they can get their 21.5 in that game. Also, the Washington football team next week. Let me see the preview tonight, Kyle, of how they do on offense. And if they stay healthy for next week, I'll look to them as well. And then also the Denver Broncos against the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't love that one, but it's a lower team total. And again, you're probably going to have to answer the bell next week as well. Any other games that you might be looking at in the NFL coming up in this next week that interest you here?
I've been riding the Minnesota Vikings team total, and they have not let me down yet this year, and it's sitting at 26.5. We're going against the Detroit Lions, the worst defense in the league. Probably won't have Dalvin Cook, so you have more Alexander Madison, which means, hey, they're going to throw the ball against what could be the worst secondary in football, Jerry Jacobs, Dean Marlowe, giving up nearly a full point per fantasy point per route ran against. So they're going to be a lot of passes, controlled environment, inside in a dome. I think that Vikings team total, I'm looking at over 26.5 minus 130. If you want the plus money, I think they get to 28 points, over 27.5 plus 100 right now, near even money. Looking at that Vikings team total, I like that 49ers team total that we talked about earlier. I want to see how Seattle's run defense looks tonight. And of course, get a little bit more information. It hurts without Deebo Samuel, but I like that quite a bit as well. I was trying to get something here with your Philadelphia Eagles. I want to buy low on the Eagles. I really do, but you're not getting a great value. It's 26.5 at -115 against a bad Jets defense. I do think the Eagles cover. I do think they win by a touchdown next week against the Jets, but that team total got a little bit high. But I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. Why am I not jumping on this Jets team total here over 17.5 at -135? I think they can move the ball on an Eagles defense that, they didn't give up a ton of points yesterday, but more, they gave up enough to lose a football game here. So if I'm looking at pain, I like the Jets. My favorite right now early in the week is the Vikings. I like the 49ers one and the Chargers as well. That one's staring me in the eye, that Chargers against that Bengals defense on the road over 23.5. I think it's a great point you mentioned about Andy Dalton. This is his wheelhouse, right? At home, 1 o'clock Eastern window, right? Not a whole lot on the line. A team that's going to score points. I think you're right. I think that team total, that actually the Bears' pain is much better than the Jets' pain right now early in the week.
No, it is, because at least you're getting a competent quarterback. And also that Bears' pain can get much less painless. If Allen Robinson plays, then you're saying, okay, I have a 101 man beater out there, which you didn't have on Thanksgiving, and they still end up winning that game. All righty here. Let's get out here and talk a little bit about let's see, Monday Night Football Week 13. What do we got here? Do we have the quick number here built up?
College?
Next week. We could spend just 1 second talking about next week's Monday Night Football game here. New England and Buffalo, Kyle. -3 is a favorite towards the Buffalo Bills. This is awesome because let's take a look at the weather conditions anticipated. 29 degrees, 12-mile-an-hour winds. If I'm looking at this as a major step-up game, can New England go in and win this game, Kyle? I actually think they can. But right now, I just can't. I need more, Kyle. I need more than a 3-point advantage because that means going into Buffalo with 3, you're expecting them to win the game. Nobody's taking the New England Patriots at 3 going, I think they can hang around. That's ridiculous. You need more than a field goal to try to hang around. If this line increases to 4 or somewhere in that range, I might bite at that point. But right now, if it sits at 3, I'm going to lean Buffalo Bills.
I don't know if I can take Buffalo in cold weather. Anything outside of a controlled, warm environment, that offense looks terrible. And the problem is they don't run the ball. They have no running game to speak of. Now they're healthy scratching Zach Moss so they can give the ball to Matt Breida more. Let me tell you how that works out. Matt Breida will make a couple plays. You know what I'm looking at in this game? I swear to God, right now, what I'm looking at is a Bills team total under 25.5 at -150. I don't think they score a lot of points on this defense in cold weather. They're a pass-heavy offense. Bill Belichick knows exactly how to take Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen away from your team. The Patriots are red hot. Look, their offense is not the reason they're winning games. They have one of, if not the best defense right now in the league. They're playing the best. They're well coached, and they run the ball. I would rather have a competent team who can run the football in cold weather. When you watch Buffalo play in any sort of element, they're putrid. When you watch them play in a dome on Thanksgiving, they look awesome. I'm going to maybe right now I'm sitting at an under team total for the Buffalo Bills. I did not think I'd say that once this year. I don't trust Josh Allen in cold weather, and I can't believe I'm saying this either.
Wait, but you don't trust me cold weather? The dude played in Wyoming in snow.
Yeah, but look at it. Look at his performances in cold weather. Look at how he looks. He doesn't look good in the NFL.
Well, what's his record then? What is it?
I don't know. I don't know his record. I just
good. Yeah, they win more than not at home, right?
Can't be great. Who did they just lose to the week before against the Colts? That was outdoors in Buffalo? Yeah, but he's not good in it. That when you have a pass-heavy offense, it's hard to win games in cold weather. They're not built for winter football outdoors. I might lean the Patriots here. I think they're the tougher team and they have the better ground game.
Yeah, it should be a fun game. I can't wait for that next week on Monday night. So we'll see how it pertains tonight with the Monday Night Football game. Let's talk some college football here and go over the playoff updates here, Kyle. As we take a look, the top 6 right now: Georgia, Michigan, Cincinnati, Alabama, Oklahoma State, and Notre Dame. It's about what we thought this week. The eliminator game, which was basically Michigan and Ohio State. Ohio State now cannot make the college football playoff. Michigan, if they win, they will get in. And I see the same scenario everywhere here, Kyle. Ready? Georgia wins or loses, they are in. Michigan wins, they are in. Cincinnati wins, they are in. So it's just up to if Alabama wins, they will stay in. If Alabama loses, they will drop out. But who is going to be the team that's going to be behind them? Will it be Notre Dame or will it be Oklahoma State? And to be honest, Notre Dame, this is your penalty. The fact that you think you're better than every other college football team and refuse to join a conference, this is your penalty. You don't play this week, so you're left out of the picture. Oklahoma State does play this week. They're going to play a top 15 team in Baylor. If they win, they're going ahead of you, Notre Dame. Just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, and look, we just need Alabama to lose, right? Enough's enough. I don't want to see two SEC teams again with one loss. But, I mean, we just saw last week. I have this just disgusting feeling. We've seen this with Georgia. How many times have we seen it with Georgia where they're an elite team, they get a shot at Alabama, and they get the brakes beaten off of them? No, I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think they're exponentially better than Alabama is. That defense is ferocious. They get the job done, then, yeah, it's got to be Oklahoma State. And you're right. This is what you get, Notre Dame. Join a conference and play in a conference title game. Look, this is not 1940 anymore. No one gives a damn that you're Notre Dame. Nobody. I mean, no one cares. I can't remember the last time I was like, oh, I got to watch a Notre Dame game. Since maybe Rick Myrer was a quarterback was the last time I cared for. That's back in the early 90s.
Not Ron Paulus?
No, Ron Paul. Yeah, I was out on Ron Paulus, and he was just basically a poor man's Rick Myrer who got drafted. I remember him and Drew Bledsoe in the same draft class out of Washington State. That was a lot of fun. But, it's Oklahoma State's spot to lose, I think. Again, if Alabama shocks the world and beats Georgia, there's no way Georgia drops past 4, right? Losing to Alabama in the SEC title game. So then you'd have both. You'd have Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Cincinnati, assuming they win their respective games. Now, Cincinnati's got a tough game against Houston, which we're going to talk about. It's not a guarantee that they beat Houston. But right now, as it sits, I got to think Oklahoma State's going to be that 4th team.
It should there. And also, let's take a look at that Houston-Cincinnati game quickly here because we're gonna touch on it in a second, but I just wanted to bring up that last thought that you have. The one thing that is the saving grace for Cincinnati is Houston is a ranked opponent here. So all they have to do to me, Kyle, I don't care if they win 7-6, they're going to make the college football playoff because you can't. The last thing the committee is going to say, oh, well, they played, I don't know, East Carolina and beat them by 1 point in the conference championship game. They don't deserve it. There's no way in hell an unbeaten Cincinnati team goes into their championship game against a ranked opponent, wins, and you say, you know what, Kyle, wasn't good enough here. We're going to drop you back for this 2-loss Alabama team. Now, also, the preference here of what I'm talking about in the college football playoff, here's the discrepancy. The best 4 teams in the country, Kyle, are not going to get into the college football playoff. And that's the way it's set up here. It doesn't have to be fair. Because Cincinnati is not a top 4 team in the country. Everybody will agree. And if you lined up the point spreads between Cincinnati and teams in the top 10, they're probably a dog in every single one of those games. But the way the college football playoff is set up and how asinine it is, you can't leave them out. We should never be having these discussions, Kyle, about a team like Cincinnati not being given a chance to play for the championship, whether you think they can win it or not. Same theory that you're talking about March Madness in the field of 64. 60 teams probably have 0 shot at winning, but they're still allowed to play because that is, you win it on the court. If you earn it, you can take it. Cincinnati always deserved to be in, even though they're not a top 4 team. So hopefully, even if you're looking, if disaster strikes here, and we watch next Tuesday night, Kyle, Cincinnati's the 5th team and not the 4th team. That might be like, you know what? You can finally hold your hand up high, Cincinnati, because you were the team that let us have exactly what we've been begging for. An 8-12, 2014, whatever it is, playoff that we deserve in college football. So I think Cincinnati gets in. You can't keep them out, even though they're not a top 4 team in the country.
No, and you can't put Notre Dame over them, right? They beat Notre Dame. They beat Notre Dame. So, I mean, what the hell happens if the committee somehow, falls on their face and does that? And I guess that would probably be the only team. The
only team I think that can jump them, Kyle, would be Oklahoma State, right? Is that the only, like, if Oklahoma State wins convincingly over Baylor, who's a top 10 team, that's the only argument. But you
need Alabama to beat Georgia.
You
need Alabama to beat Georgia. And then you need Cincinnati, to win, obviously. And then Oklahoma State.
By 1 point.
Trounce Baylor. And I think that would be I don't think Alabama belongs there. I mean, you watch that Auburn game. We watched that Auburn game. We watched the Arkansas game the week before. This is not a great Alabama team. I don't think they belong there.
No, you saw Brian Robinson, too, getting shaken up in that game. Now, he's basically Alabama's offense. Obviously, the quarterback's pretty good. Don't get me wrong. But you saw that team, when they're putting in their backup running backs, it's not the same explosion. And Alabama every year, Kyle, seems like they have a first-round running back. He goes down. They don't have much behind him here. I don't think they're going to stack up. We'll talk about the game in a minute, but finish your thoughts there on Alabama and Georgia here.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Georgia wins this game. It's 6.5. That defense is so good. I mean, 9 touchdowns now through 12 games. They absolutely did what they needed to do. this weekend. There was no funny business. They weren't, needing a miracle to win in overtime by 2 points over their rival. They got it done. Georgia's the best team in the country. I think they show it this weekend. You're right. The injury to Robinson is something to keep an eye on. But right now, Georgia by a touchdown makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And keep in mind, last week when we were talking about, Kyle, those advanced lines looking ahead, that was at -4, and it's certainly gone higher because what you saw out of Alabama, and again, Alabama did not have a single point on the board entering into the fourth quarter. And my favorite part about that game, Kyle, which it's so insane to watch, they stop on 4th and short. Again, backup running back up the middle. Auburn has the football, just under 2 minutes to go. 2 timeouts for Alabama. Kyle, if they take 3 knees and punt the football, they win the game. If they run the football 3 times for -4 yards apiece, they win the football game. If the kid doesn't say, I want to break it outside and gain close to a first down and run out of bounds, they win the football game. How insane is that? Like Brian Harston on the sideline. Like, you have to tell these, hey, I'm going to hand it off up the middle, which he did. But, of course, I'm going to bounce this outside, see if I can score a touchdown. You idiot. If you went up the middle for a half of a yard, your team won the football game. It's insane how it looks. But let's take a look at some of the games this weekend here, Kyle. Starting on a Friday night, Utah and Oregon. Now, this is a game that we were probably going to worry about, right, with the national championship picture. But thank goodness Utah already beat the snot out of Oregon. And we'll see if Oregon can respond here. 59.5 with a favorite of -2.5 as the early number here. I got to say, I just watched the game. I think Utah can do it again here, Kyle. Early in the week, I'm leaning towards Utah again.
Yeah. I mean, Oregon did get it done. They looked a little bit better against Oregon State than I thought. Oregon State made a late little run there, got it to within 8 or 9 points. But no, Utah's better. Oregon, this is not what Oregon was looking for 2 weeks ago. I know they sort of showed up against Oregon State, but I with you watched that game with some friends. One of the few college football games I watched from start to finish all year long. Utah's a better team here. I think it's a short number. Utah gets it done. I just don't believe in Oregon. I don't believe in that defense. I don't believe in the coaching staff. I'm not a big Oregon guy this year. I thought they were overachieving anyways coming into that game a couple weeks back. I like Utah. Utah should get it done here. Line's too short.
There you go. All right, let's keep moving forward here on some action this weekend on championship weekend. Baylor and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State here favored by 4.5. Opening number actually posted at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Kyle, 5.5. That's dropped the point down. How about this? A Big 12 championship game, Kyle. 46.5.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, what the hell is going on? That should be I'm looking right below it on the board, and we got Kent State and Northern Illinois at 73.5, and that's usually what we're more accustomed to seeing in this game. I like this Oklahoma State defense. It's a little bit tougher against Oklahoma than you'd want, but I like this defense. If they ratchet it up here, I'm looking forward to that match. I'm not a big defensive guy, and I like overs, but you see so much ridiculous stuff happen in college where it's kind of nice to see a normal, 24-17 type game, which we could easily get from Georgia, Oklahoma State. I like Oklahoma State, one of my favorite teams here. I hope they get into the college football playoff. I think that defense just a little bit too much for Baylor, and they get it done this weekend.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's a defensive struggle we're looking at in the Big 12. That is outrageous stuff here. So we'll see how it pans out, see what that line closes a little bit later in the week. Houston and Cincinnati, just talked about it here. I do have a ticket at plus 350 for Cincinnati to get into the college football playoff this week, Kyle. The minute the line came out, I took Houston, which was at 11.5, and I took them on the money line because, in my estimation here, if Houston wins that game, obviously Cincinnati can't make the college football playoff, I get some money. But at the same time, if Cincinnati wins this game by 1 point, then I think Cincinnati goes to the college football playoff, and I cashed that 350 ticket in. I do think Cincinnati is going to win. And also keep in mind, with these championship games that are usually at neutral sites, the AAC, where is this at? Nippert Stadium, Cincinnati. Home field advantage for the Bearcats. I think they get it done here.
Yep, I completely agree. They should get it done. Now, you worry about the spread a little bit.
Yeah.
Are they going to be motivated to even win by that much, or they just want to get the job done here? Nice little teaser spot. I think if you get this thing under a touchdown, that's a nice little spot. Or if you go the other way and get this to 3 scores for Houston, I like the tease both ways. But Cincinnati should get it done here. Top 10 in both offense and defense in the country. I like Cincinnati. I'm rooting for them to get in. Although the dark, evil, sadistic side of me also wants them to not get in and hear everyone scream and hoot and holler and piss and moan, and we'll finally get the 8 or 12 team playoff like you mentioned. But right now, Cincinnati, the better team. They should get it done here. I like this as a teaser spot, though. I'm not touching that 10.5 or 11.
Yeah, there we go. All right, let's keep moving forward here. Georgia, Alabama, obviously in the SEC championship game, played in Atlanta, 6.5-point favorite by Georgia. And I know we look at the past history, right? Every time Georgia is coming into the SEC, oh boy, we got to get past Bama. This is finally the first time in a long time where you're looking at Alabama saying they're the weaker opponent here, and Georgia should be able to handle their business. But it's one game, Kyle. It's not a 3-game, 5-game, 7-game series that these guys are going to play, and you see it. One banged up injury, one bad fumble, one, kicker who just can't make an extra point or a field goal, and that can sink your ship. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Georgia is historically good on defense. And I know you can't take a lot out of the past game here from Alabama, but take a look at their season, right? Florida stinks. They barely beat Florida. LSU is hot trash. They barely beat LSU. Mm-hmm. They were a 21-point favorite in the Iron Bowl against backups, and they should have lost that game 10-0. Holy moly, give me Georgia early in the week.
Yeah, it's got to be Georgia, right? Like them at 4, at 6.5. I just don't think Alabama's that good, and we'll see how healthy Robinson is. Again, 9 touchdowns allowed in 12 games. I know that college football can have some weird scheduling. You're going to play some tomato cans. But in the SEC, that's absolutely outstanding. And when you watch the two teams play, Georgia looks exponentially better. Makes me nervous. We've seen this story before, and we've seen the ending, and it always ends with Alabama kicking the hell out of Georgia. I think things change this year. Georgia gets it done, knocks Alabama out of the playoffs.
All right, here, and let's just take a quick look here. Wake Forest and Pittsburgh, a total of 72.5 in their game in the ACC championship against Pittsburgh. Doesn't have a lot of meaning here, but it's amazing how far the ACC has fallen where Wake Forest and Pittsburgh are playing for the championship. Not FSU, not Miami, not Clemson, not Virginia Tech, Kyle.
I don't even know what to say about it. You're usually looking forward to Florida State, Miami, and which Miami kicker or Florida State kicker is going to miss the kick, and this is going to be an awesome game, and we've got the Michael Irvins and the Deion Sanders, and now it's the Demon Deacons in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I haven't cared about a football game since, Dan Marino was quarterbacking that team in the 80s, and I was only 2 back then. No, should be points here. I think I sort of lean Wake Forest with the points, but it makes me a little bit nervous. I won't be touching this game, but if you like overs, you like points, and you like defense, this is the game for you. It should hit that over. That 72.5 is probably a little low.
Yeah, 2 good quarterbacks there. Last game we'll talk about quickly here. Iowa, Michigan State. And I don't know why. Hey, look, it's 8 o'clock. It's a Saturday night. Take your girlfriend out, take your boyfriend out, take your family out, hang out somewhere else, or unless you want to go to sleep early and watch this total set at 43.5, where all with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, they know they have to win this game by 1 point, and they're getting into the college football playoff. They're not going to stress because you know why? Iowa. I have no idea how it's like if you're an Iowa football fan. How? Every week your goal is I cannot wait to run 3 yards in a cloud of dust up the middle, stall the game out and see if we can win. How much fun is that going to be going out to Kinnick Stadium? I don't get it here. I hope Michigan wins this game because I would love to see Michigan in the college football playoff, keep Ohio State out of it. Yes. Fascinating stuff overall. So we'll see how it plays out. But early in the week, it's a high number. It's 11.5 right now and a 43.5 total, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I got to be honest. This morning I woke up and I go, wait a second. Who does Michigan actually play in the Big Ten title game over the other teams? And I'm like, wait, it's Iowa? Are you kidding me? I'd rather watch, I'd rather put out a fire with my face than watch Michigan versus Iowa. As low as that number is, I sort of kind of lean that way, and I might take the points here. You're right. I don't think Michigan's going to be worried about blowing them out. Style points do not matter. Get in, get the job done. Iowa is going to do everything in their power to take all the joy out of this game. You could see a low-scoring win here. It would like a 20-10, 20-6 type of game here with Michigan beating Iowa would not shock me, but I'm not really ready to touch that, 10.5 or 11, especially after the weekend we just saw last week. So I would lean the under here. I think Michigan wins. Another nice teaser spot. But with the points sitting here at double, you need to basically win by 2 touchdowns. I'll probably lean Iowa here. They'll just take all the fun out of it in a close, ugly game.
Yeah, TD Corral 08 says, I agree Cincinnati doesn't need to run up the score. So it's a lot different where we were talking about like the Notre Dames of the world have to run it up against Stanford. And I was sitting there in CVS waiting for my booster shot, did not have the game on, and saw Cincinnati hadn't scored in the first quarter, immediately bet they're over. And it was like a pinball machine as ended up with 35 points over the final, 2.5 quarters of that game. So you don't have that. These teams just need to win. So you do want to take that into account. When they have the lead late in the game up double digits, they ain't looking to say, I need another touchdown. touchdown. They're saying, I need another first down, and let's get out of here and move on to the college football playoffs. So thank you guys for joining us here on a Monday on the Donnie and Kyle show, talking about some early lines in NFL action and NCAA football action. Both myself and Kyle will be back on Saturday morning to break down
championship so early
weekend. Look at that. And also Sunday next week, again, for our kickoff show in the NFL. But thanks again for tuning in here to Bookmakers Review. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button here. Turn on the notification bell. Every time we go live, you'll be able to come in here and say hello in the chat box. And if you're following us on the Twitter page at BMR Reviews, give us a follow there as well. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Kyle Proviance. We have the BMR NFL and NCAA football team. And as always, guys, good luck on those wagers.